Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Marilyn Maya, and today we're going to do something different. Well, it's not different because 6 months ago I did this topic already. I was inspired by Gina Stanier at Gina Stanier Books. What's cheering me up right now? I went through a rough patch in the last couple of months, and so when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Gina was inspired to do what's cheering me up right now by I think it's a beauty tuber, Louise Poston. And I'll have both of their informations down in the description box. So what's making me happy right now? I think you might have a clue. I was sent this by a subscriber who we had exchanged books before, and she knows I like tea, and this came from England, direct from England, and it took a long time according to the box. And well, she wants to be anonymous, so I did some well, a little bit of research. It's called the Brown Betty, and Brown Betty Teapot. So this teapot has quite a history. I did some research and also read the little tag, and it dates back to the end of the 17th century and the birth of the British Ceramic Teapot. The original unglazed teapot was made out of red clay from the Bradell Woods area in Stoke-on-Trent. Today, the Brown Betty teapot is still made in Stoke-on-Trent with the same clay from the original area. British people believe the Brown Betty makes the best pot of tea because of the type of clay that is used and the shape of the pot. Even though the shape has changed, it used to look more like a coffee pot, I heard. And so it was originated in 1695, and the clay resulted in a ceramic which seems to retain heat better, and so found use as the material for the teapot as early as the 17th century. So the Rockingham glaze was brushed on the pot and allowed to run down the sides, creating a streaky finish as it was fired. This doesn't have a streaky finish. Though it does have a made in England that I don't want to, a British flag that I don't want to take off. And yeah, it was really popular in Victorian times, I read, and when tea was even more popular. And I did read somewhere else, but not in my recent Googling, that in World War II, this was like the, put on the Brown Betty. It's like the everyday teapot, not the fancy, the fancy fine china ones. But thank you so much to the person who sent me this. I was astounded. I can't wait to start using it, but I like to save things for special occasions. That's not good, but I like to do that. So that's cheering me up right now. Just having friends on booktube who send me things that I don't ask for, and yeah, that's great. I love it. Thank you so much to the person who sent this to me all the way from England. So what else is making me happy? A lot of things. One is NonFiction November, and it made me realize how much I love nonfiction and that I haven't been really reading it as much. And since I'm so used to reading nonfiction, I can really dip in and dip out of books. So when NonFiction November started, I looked up the best nonfiction of the last 50 years or something, and I came up with this book. And I don't know if any, this book was written in 1999, so you might think it's obsolete, but I think not. It's Home Comforts, The Art and Science of Keeping Home by Cheryl Mendelson. And this has, you know, everything in it. And it says here, it's an extraordinary achievement that has no peer in this century and may well have none in the next. So I don't think they knew about Google then. But you know what? Some things never change, and sometimes it's good to look up things. For example, I have arthritis, and I have a hard time with the sheets, the fitted sheets, you know, especially when they kind of shrink sometimes. So she has a little hint of taking one side and the other side. You probably know this already, but you know, you take one end and then diagonally, and then once you push them together, then you can easily stretch the other sides out. And I have, of course, I haven't read this whole book. This is really an achievement. I mean, I don't know how she knows all these things, but she has a little part here about repairing damaged books. And though she says, you know, not to, you know, if it's a valuable book, don't do it yourself. But yeah, sometimes I see the librarians fixing books, and I always wondered how to do it. And I'm a type of reader who likes to look at things. I'm visual, so yeah, I'm a visual person. So that's why I probably need glasses from an early age. But anyway, I was looking in this book, and it's really amazing, the things she has, from electrical shock to understanding your castle, even to labor laws, which probably are obsolete right now. How to clean your walls, non-slip treads in tubs, which, yeah, I think we've come behind. You know, that's good, but I don't like them if you're going to take a bath. So now, you know, you're more with the bars for not to, and also it has carbon monoxide poisoning and all kinds of how to take care of all kinds of different materials. This is it's a cozy book somehow. You know, I'm not a domestic goddess, but I always had in my mind I wanted to be. So anyway, check out this book if you're interested in the art and science of keeping home, because it's a job. Trust me, it's a job. Okay, so what other nonfiction? I just finished reading the first chapter of Dear Reader, which I was saving for this month. This is by Cathy Rentzenbrink, and she's from England. And when I read the first chapter, I knew that I was going to love this book. She talks about, you know, being mistreated in first grade. I was mistreated in first grade, different reasons. She said it was because she was a newcomer. Her father was traveling for different jobs. And yeah, I haven't figured out why, but she was good at reading, and so was I, but bad at everything else. And the one thing is that her teachers didn't, you know, they put her down for being a good reader. And she talks about how she sort of picked up reading by osmosis. And that's the way I feel like I picked up reading. She talks about, in the first chapter, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. And though it was written in 1950, but I didn't read it. I guess by the time I was about 8 or 9 or 10, I was already reading like more middle grade books, you know, maybe even what we call YA now. But I did read a biography of C.S. Lewis, and he was a very wonderful person in his life. His life was fascinating anyway. But it made me want to read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So I know that this is going to be a good book. She starts the book by moving into a new home to be close to her parents. And she says that books have always comforted her, as they have maybe all of us who are watching right now, and all of us on booktube. And I really related to that so much. And she wants to, you know, she has her bookcase and she wants to put them in order of when she read them and how they made her feel. So, you know, this is a short book, so I'm trying to make it last. But I know that Alice from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf had suggested this book. So she loved it. It was one of her favorite reads of the year. And I'm not sure if it's going to be my favorite, but I know that it's looking like it might be. Okay, so then I'm reading, and we talked about Gina, right? And Gina sent me a book about 6 months ago. And she sent me, you know, around this time when she was doing the What's Cheering Me Up right now, she sent me a beautiful book bag that I'm still using. And this book it's called Thrush Green. It's a misread book. And I read the Fair Acres series, and maybe not all of it, but most of it. And I really loved it. I thought, you know, Miss Reed was a very, well, Miss Reed was probably the author, and whose name is not Miss Reed, but she's Miss Reed as the main character. And she's the teacher of a small village in England in the 50s, schoolroom, like a one-room school. And if you look at the picture, it's so wonderful. The ducks and the houses, and so it says it's the charming chronicles of small-time life have achieved an almost legendary popularity worldwide by offering a welcome return to a gentler time with wit, humor, and wisdom. And I found Miss Reed quite snarky at times. It's not like a goody-goody book like you might think, oh, I don't want to read this. But I haven't read this. This is the first of the Thrush Green series, and I haven't read any of them. So, and it's like in perfect condition. So thank you, Gina, for two things: for inspiring me to do this video, and also for sending me this book. Okay, so what else do I have? All right, so I'm reading a book, I'm reading a fiction book by Mary Shelley. And I'm reading it with Sarah, one of my subscribers, and she's read it before, and she's a wonderful, we're having a buddy read. And I started reading it in large print for obvious reasons. And I am so blown away by this book. I thought, Frankenstein? I don't read horror. I don't even like too much Gothic. Though I did like Rebecca, of course, by Daphne du Maurier. But I also got out of the library, and it's the annotated Frankenstein. Now look at this book. It's not very easy to read, but it has photos. Here's one, probably of the movie, of what Frankenstein is supposed to look like. And I'm going to start, we're already on the second part of the book, and I think now is the time that I'm going to get back and see what I missed, if anything. And the pictures are just beautiful. It's in the Frankenstein summer of 1816, Lord Byron rented this lavish villa and in Lake Geneva. And here's the picture of it. It's just wonderful. So I was surprised that this book took place in Switzerland, most of it anyway, though he does go to Germany, Mr. Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, to study. And so that's part of the book. But it mainly takes place in Geneva and towns around Geneva. And I am so blown away, like I said, about how Mary Shelley 200 years ago was able to write such a modern book with people who seem really real. It's written in 3 points of view. The first part being a man who seems a lot like Frankenstein. In fact, he says that Frankenstein, well, I don't want to, in case you haven't read it, I don't want to spoil it, but he wants to discover this captain of a ship, and he wants to be famous, he wants to be known for something great. And that's what this book is really about. And then we go into the point of view of Frankenstein, who goes to college and who has a pleasant home life, you would seem, but it seems like the author is saying that too much learning can be good or bad, excuse me, depending on how you do it. But and then the third point of view is, of course, of the monster, who a lot of people think Frankenstein is the monster, but he's the creature, the monster, or Frankenstein's creation. So I'm really enjoying this book. The setting is gorgeous. It reminded me, in the 80s, I went to Geneva, and I went not to the high Alps, but to the lower Alps. And when he talks about that, when she talks about that in the book, Mary Shelley, it just brought back such vivid memories of how beautiful Switzerland is. And I've never been to Germany, but yeah. So I really am surprised, and that's what I love about being on BookTube, is that I'm prejudiced against certain books, and then when I start reading them, I realize that, yeah, I should have read this book a long time ago. So that's making me happy right now. So what else is making me happy right now? Well, I wanted to talk about a book that I missed last month, and it's not a Victorian book. It's called Small Pleasures by Claire Chambers, and it turned out to be a comfort read for me. I gave it 4 stars. I mean, it's not like the best writing in the world or the best story in the world. Now what did I say about it? Okay, well, the premise revolves around a woman who writes to a newspaper saying that her daughter is the result of a virgin birth. So already I didn't like the premise, but this book is so much more than that. The main character is Jean, and Gretchen is the woman who has written to the newspaper. And since Jean, this is taking place in the 50s, so she's given a job of writing, like, homey things and things that women would like. And sometimes those columns or bits of them are in the book as beginning chapters. And so the premise really of the book is that Jean, she's taking care of her mother, who's very difficult. And that's her whole life. Her mother thinks she's an invalid, kind of makes herself an invalid, and she's also very demanding. And poor Jean doesn't have a life, and this is in the 50s. And then she gets involved with Gretchen and her husband and her daughter in figuring out about this so-called virgin birth. And yeah, it becomes a little kitschy, and predictable, but it made me feel good. So I'm putting it's a 4-star read, Small Pleasures by Claire Chambers. I really recommend it if you're in a feel-good kind of mood. Then this is the biggest, what's cheering me up right now. I didn't realize, and I don't even know how long it was, that I had book mail that I overlooked. It was in a corner. I didn't look at it. It really is not, it's green, and it's from Better World Books. So I must have made this maybe months ago. So right now, that was making, isn't it wonderful when we get up, I have no idea what's in here. I opened it just to make it easy for me to take the books out. But isn't it wonderful when we get surprises? I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are, you getting a surprise in the mail is just something that just warms your heart and cheers you up. So let me open this right now, and I promise I haven't looked at any of these books. They might not be, for nonfiction November or anything else that's coming up, but let's see what it is. Whoa. Okay, the first one is called The Sleep Revolution by Arianne Huffington, and it's transforming your life one night at a time. And the reason I bought this book was because I read about her story. She was like pushing herself. Now, I'm not that familiar. I know she's the co-founder and editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post. That's really all I know about her. So she had a book called Thrive, which I really didn't, I'm not interested in. But, she went sleepless for a long time, I guess, being the co-founder of a magazine, and having to do, thinking we can live on 4-hour sleep nights. So I said, if I can get a good price for this, which I did, and the original price was $26, so I know I didn't pay that much, and it's in perfect condition. And yeah, I want to read about it. And the next book is Elizabeth Harrower, A Few Days in the Country and Other Stories. And I have no idea why I bought this book or what it's about. So let me see. One day, Alice said, Eric Lane wants to take me to ... For the first time, her mother attended, standing still. Eric was brought to the house, and Eric and Alice were married. Before there was time to say knife. How did it happen? She tried to trace it back. She was watching her mother performing for Eric, and then she always paused here in her mind. Somehow she woke up married and in another house. So Elizabeth Harrower is also the author of a small body of a short fiction, A Few Days in the Country. I don't know who recommended this book, but if you're the one who said this is a good book, or if you read it, it has like a crow on a tree. A Few Days, so it's a short story collection basically, and I have no idea why I bought it, but definitely want to read it. And here's another one by the same author, The Catherine Wheel. Coming closer. Okay, now I glanced for a second dispassionately at the pale face and dark hair, at the amber eyes and almost childish mouth that had disguised me all my life as a nice, quiet girl. Even about my overcoat, I noticed there was something unintentionally deceitful. Okay, so what is this about? The Catherine Wheel, and for some reason this sounds really familiar. So Clemency James has moved from Sydney to a chilly London bedsit to study for the bar by correspondence. When she meets Christian, a charismatic failed actor, she can see he's in trouble. Yet she is drawn to him, drawn into his world of unpayable debts and wild promises. In The Catherine Wheel, her third novel, Elizabeth Harrower turns her unflinching gaze on the grimness of 1950s London and the madness that can infect couples. That sounds really interesting to me. So if you've read the Catherine Wheel or A Few Days in the Country, let me know what you thought of it in the comments. Should I start it sooner than later? And there's one more book in here. Oh my goodness, okay. I knew I was going to buy this eventually. And it's part of the Cora Sandel's, and it's Alberta Alone. And we, Lindy and I, of Lindy's Magpie Reads, we read the, I read the first Alberta and Jacob with Freddie from Sluggish Reader. And the second one, I read Alberta and Freedom with Lindy. And she promised me next year we're going to read Alberta Alone. So yeah, this series has been the best series, and I haven't read a lot of series, but the best books that I've ever read, for real. And so thank you, Sean, for suggesting Cora Sandel, because I read her short stories and I wasn't totally hooked. But once I read Alberta and Jacob, which is semi-autobiographical or more than semi, I was hooked. Well, was that enough? I'm feeling better just talking to you. So tell me hi in the comments and subscribe to my channel if you're so inclined. I hope I'm going to put a lot of people down below who I'm going to tag for some kind to do some kind of variation of what's cheering you up right now, because you know we need things that cheer us up in today's world, and I'm feeling better every day. So until we meet again in another video, I wish you all whatever your heart desires, and aloha.